If you're thinking of moving to Egypt, whether that's for work, life, study, or just because you want to slow things down with your family, you're probably going to need a visa. And let me tell you something, the visa process isn't getting any easier. And those stories that you've heard, they're probably 99.973% true. So there are a few things that I've done since being here in Egypt, now for over a year and a half, that have helped me and my family get through the visa process easily. Here are my 5 essential tips on how you can do the same. Let's get into it. First of all, let's start with the options. Most of you are probably going to be coming on a visitor visa, a tourist visa, and that generally is around 30 to 90 days. You can do this online or you can do it at the airport. Generally, if you're doing it online, I really recommend that you do it at least 2 weeks in advance, because I've heard stories of people not getting it through and it creates a lot of anxiety. Or you could do the easier thing, which is just come to the airport, pay the $25. At the time that this video is being shot, it's $25 at the airport, and you get a single entry visa at the airport, and it's probably the easiest way. If you're doing things online, I really recommend going through and getting the multiple entry visa. It's for 90 days. You can stay in a concurrent timeline of 30 days at a time. So you stay 30 days and then you have to leave and then you can re-enter. And that costs around $60 to $70. So if you're going to do it online, only do it online if you're going to be coming in and out of the country for 3 months. Otherwise, get your visa at the airport. It's just easier. The queues aren't particularly bad and it's simpler. Creates less anxiety. So the second option that you have is the student visa. This is generally given to yourself or a child of yours if you're enrolled at an Arabic institute or school or university. And what you do is get that paperwork and then you go to the new capital where the education embassy is now located, and you demonstrate to them that you have a child in school or you are enrolled in an institution in Egypt. Once you've got the official paperwork, once they've given you a stamp of approval, you then go to the Iqama centres to get a 1-year residency, and that's generally the student approach. I really recommend that if you've got children in particular, especially young children who are going to be schooled here. It's easy and it saves you a lot of headache and anxiety because you get a year at a time. Do note though that they are only giving the student visa and the residency to the father from the last time that I heard. So if you are married and the wife requires a visa, they will have to get the normal tourist visa 6 months at a time for her. Okay, the third option. So the third option is the family or dependent visa. This is generally given to someone who's married to a local individual here, and you have to be married, I think, a minimum of a year, year and a half, and then go through the formalities. It's generally quite expensive, but you are able to obtain a visa if your spouse is from here, or alternatively, your spouse, her ethnic origin or his ethnic origin is from Egypt, and you're both now back in the country, and you can apply through the spousal program as well. So that's the third option. Moving on to the fourth, which is probably one of the easier things for those in business, and that is the business program visa. So you have to apply through the process of, first of all, setting up a company. I think you generally need around minimum $1,000 in the company bank account, and then on top of that, pay for all the different things that you have to set up as part of your business program visa. At this moment in time, it's called the GAFI program. It's a bit of a strange name, GAFI, and that allows you to get 1 year at a time as well. That's a business visa program. I think it's a newer program. It sounds a bit more complex, definitely a bit more expensive than just getting a extension 6 months at a time of the tourist visa, if you're only thinking about living here in the short or medium term. But there are the 4 options first and foremost. Right, moving on. Okay, so you are in Egypt, you've loved your time here, it's been over 30 days, or you've come to the country with the intention of hijrah and you want to make sure that you're able to stay for at least 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe a few years. How can you extend your visa? Well, if you are living in New Cairo, I'd like to share that one of the easiest ways that you can do this now is in the New Cairo visa facility. This is around 20 to 25 minutes from Rehab, the compound that we are living in, around the same time from Medinati as well. So they've set up a new place, it's super clean, it's a lot more organized, it's really purpose built for people to extend their visas and get an iqama. And for me, that's the easiest way to do so. You are able to go there, you are able to expedite the process as well with an extra $70. Generally, the process costs $150 for the iqama. You are given anywhere from a month worst case scenario of what I've heard, to 6 months at a time if you are from the UK or the US. And the process, like I said, $150 plus $70 per adult. And the process in New Cairo, particularly the New Cairo facilities, is quite easy, it's quite smooth. And the pro tip is definitely get there early. It's generally quite quiet from the hours of 9 a.m. to around 11:30. It definitely gets busy from 11:30 till about 2, but it does quieten down after that as well. So try out the New Cairo facilities. I can put a link to the location comments below. Beyond that, if you're not living in New Cairo, I'm afraid all those horror stories are going to be realized when you have to go to Abyssinia, which makes really you living in Cairo for 6 months a real gift, because that one day you realize a struggle that you have to go through really makes you think you are in Egypt. And Abyssinia, I'm afraid, is just as scary as everyone makes out. It's generally very hot, there's generally a lot of people, and it's incredibly unorganized, and you have to navigate not just the people, but the lack of direction and instructions, and that can make it quite intimidating. One thing that will make it easier is speaking to people who've recently had experiences at Abyssinia, so joining Egypt support groups, Facebook groups, even our community, and asking others if they've been to Abyssinia recently and how was the process and what tips they would give. But beyond that, you will need the same things, the same $150, same $70 if you want to expedite. You will need copies of your passport, in particular your arrival stamp page. It needs to be valid for at least 6 months. You'll need at least 3 photos. Probably you'll need proof of your residency or where you are staying, so your address, and maybe you'll need proof of a bank account as well. So Abyssinia is located generally around 40 minutes from New Cairo. It's found in the old side of Cairo. It's intense. Make sure you take plenty of water. Prepare yourself, and I promise you, if you are able to get through Abyssinia, you'll probably be able to get through a lot of things in life. It builds a lot of resistance. So they're the 2 options that exist. There are other options that I've heard of. For example, in Hurghada, I've heard there is a location, particularly in Sharm el-Sheikh, so in between those 2 areas, as well as a new location, Medina, if you're living in the Medina compound, but I don't know too much about that. I've seen pictures and I've been around there, and it does look quite clean, so maybe it'll be quite civilized. They're the options. Take your pick. Okay, so what can you do if you want to be living here in Egypt longer term? So when I say longer term, it's anything beyond a year, 18 months, and you are wanting to see Egypt as a temporary home for at least maybe the next 3 to 4 years. What can you do? My advice is definitely to consider buying a property here in Egypt. Anything over $250,000 that I've heard from my contacts allows you to get a sort of citizenship / residency, and this allows you to stay in the country with your family with a bit more of a permanence, and this just brings a peace of mind that I think especially will appease your wife and your family members. That's on offer, of course. It's not cheap. It's $250,000. It's just a price that you're going to have to pay if you're thinking short term if you're thinking mid-term to longer term. Other than that, I do think that kind of extending your 6-month visa at a time is probably your next best option, especially if you're thinking about homeschooling your children, and in particular if you're living in the new side of Cairo. If you are living in the new side of Cairo and want to go to the new Cairo offices, what you have to ensure that you have is a stamped contract from the city council of the compound that you live in. Without that stamped contract, the new Cairo offices will just not entertain your visa application. So make sure you have that. Make sure you take extra dollars with you, because sometimes you might forget things at home, you might have to go back, or things might change when it comes to prices, because it can happen. I've been here in Egypt now 18 months and I've seen the price change maybe 3 times in the last 18 months. And it's gone up and down. So it's a bit of a strange situation, and do bear in mind that it's attached to whatever's happening with the currency and the amount of dollars that are in the economy, and therefore price fluctuation is a very common thing here, so bear that in mind. Do think about the options that exist for the short to mid-term, particularly mid to long-term, buying property versus kind of extending 6 months at a time. And failing that, if you are willing to put your children into the education system here in Egypt, the father is likely to get 1 year as a minimum, so that's a great option as well. Right, moving on to the essential tips to make sure you have a smooth process when you get to the visa offices and things to avoid doing. Okay, so what are some mistakes you need to avoid when it comes to the visa process? The first thing that I've got to share, it might sound really obvious, but just make sure you don't do any filming when you get to the visa offices. Like if you want to be able to stay in the country headache free and be able to go through the visa process without any issues, really don't take your camera out or with you. Do not be sitting in the visa office. Like who would do that with a phone attached, taking a picture of videos of the environment? No one in the right mind would do anything like that, would they? Not that I've been caught doing that, trying to get videos for you guys, but make sure you don't do that because it can get you in a bit of bother. That's the first thing. The second thing is try to get to the visa offices early. I know it's something that we already talked about, but people really underestimate what early means. The visa offices tell you online they open at 9 o'clock, but I promise you, in particular at Abbasiyah, people are queuing from 7:30. So if you're able to get there around 7:30 to be one of the first individuals in, it will save you a lot of headache and just make the whole process a bit more stress-free, in particular, as I said, at Abbasiyah. The third thing is making sure you dress appropriately, like just make sure that you look the part. It does make a difference if you speak to the officers, especially in the New Cairo offices in English. I just find that you're treated a bit better and they just see you a bit differently, and I think that makes the process a bit easier. Leverage the things that work for you. I mean, that's okay. So make sure you're dressing the part and utilizing the strengths of yourself. Make sure that you are thinking about the fact that certain things are just going to be in the Arabic language. So certain elements of paperwork you'll see probably won't be translated into English, or certain things will be said to you and you won't understand. So make sure you've got all the basic terms like, I want to extend for 6 months. I want to extend, my tourist visa for 6 months. I need an iqama. Know the certain terms that you're going to be using, so it will make the process easier if the person isn't speaking to you in English, in particular if you're in Abbasiyah, where they probably won't be using the English language as much. And finally, just make sure that you appreciate that your tourist visa doesn't just renew automatically. I know it sounds really naive and quite a simple thing to be saying, but there's stories that we hear of people just believing that, okay, I'm here for 6 months, it's going to be okay, there won't be any issues. Generally, there are issues, especially if you are trying to leave the country. As an example, if you are overstaying your stay here and you had an iqama, you're going to be paying a fine, in particular at the Cairo airport, and even more so if you are leaving from Giza airport, Sphinx airport. The fine is quite astronomical. It doesn't matter if you've overstayed 1 week or 2 weeks, if you're leaving from Sphinx, you're going to be slapped with a pretty high fine. At Cairo, I've heard they're a bit more flexible. It's about $150 or so per month, but I've heard other people paying as little as $20. So it does depend on the person that you find on the day. Just make sure you're nice if you're going to be overstaying, but just save yourself some headache and just renew your iqama in the first place. Make sure you take the extra dollars. Think about worst case scenario. Maybe pray extra salah before you go. I know it can bring a sense of peace and grounding, that the whole process is easy and made easy for you, and just have high expectations or good expectations of people. That'll be okay. Let me know in the comments below what your experiences have been, if you've gone through the process, and if there's anything that you'd like to share as a tip, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.